Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look again at Lord Berkeley of Knighton. This time we're looking at the Keep Wards single-sex campaign. Today we're looking at the debate when Baroness Nicholson and Lord Blencathra moved amendments 297F and 297G. These amendments were designed to protect women-only spaces in hospitals, to ensure that women were not labelled transphobic if they queried whether a man should be allowed on their ward. And they were withdrawn, so they weren't voted on ultimately. Anyway, let's look at what Lord Berkeley has to say. You may remember him from a video I posted the other day about prisons.
I always enjoy listening to Lord Blencathra because he has quite an absolutist way of delivering his ideas. But I think his ideas here have prompted other noble lords to a very sensible suggestion that we need to look further at this. If I could just make one point, I do think we have to look at this question with great compassion. Compassion for women who feel uncomfortable, but compassion for women who actually are trans. And I say this because we all know that people are born sometimes with mixed chromosomes. It's not black and white. It's a very complex issue. So I think the suggestion of the noble Lord Hunt of King's Heath, and I see Lord Blencathra nodding, I think that must be the right way forward. It needs to be looked at with great care and in great detail and by people who know what they're talking about.
So we've just listened to the speech where Lord Berkeley talks about his impressions of the amendments moved by Baroness Nicholson and Lord Blencathra. And first of all, may I just say that I share Lord Berkeley's admiration of the way that Lord Blencathra delivers his amendments with such passion. It's no secret that I have become a big fan of Lord Blencathra. So I like the fact that he's tipping his hat at a colleague there. The next thing I want to say is that he is completely in the wrong here. He seems to think that people are born with mixed chromosomes. The truth is that for almost every human born, and we're talking all but 16 out of 10,000, your chromosomes are either XY or XX. You are either a man or a woman. Very simply, your genitals map to your biological sex. There is no question at all. There are a further number of people who are born who have a slight deformity of their genitals, which may not immediately be noticeable, and they make up the majority of the people that we call intersex or have variations or differences of sexual development, which is the preferred term. So the people that are born that have a variation of sexual development are necessarily not very far from the main pattern of humans, which is two sexes. But biologically, you've got a male and a female. They produce different gametes. Those gametes join and create an entirely new individual during the process of sexual reproduction. There is none of that is contested. All of that is truth. It's not a theory. That is the truth, and it has been for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. I'm a bit shady about when sexual reproduction developed in the evolutionary tree. So Lord Berkeley has clearly been told by lobbyists, I'm going to guess, LGBTQIAS lobbyists, who are desperate to add intersex to their pride flag and to their activism because they think it will excuse the actions of middle-aged male autogynephiles. They are completely different. Being intersex or having a variation or a difference of sexual development is a very, very rare medical condition. It's confidential between you and your medical practitioner, and you may choose to pursue surgery you may need to pursue some kind of hormonal intervention. You may have fertility challenges. In fact, I would imagine that that's fairly common for people who have variations of sexual development. None of that is anything to do with identity claims of people who are very clearly male or very clearly female. It's just not the same thing at all. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Another thing I find interesting is that Lord Berkeley here expresses more empathy with the situation that women might find themselves in a hospital situation where somebody is presented to them as female when, you know, they can see that it's a man. And it's interesting to me that he has the empathy for women in hospitals that he doesn't have for women in prisons. And I think that is because we can identify more easily with women in hospitals. We all have mothers, sisters, wives, girlfriends, friends, and we can imagine them needing to be in a hospital bed. I would suggest that there are many people in Lord Berkeley's circle of acquaintance who may be at risk of being incarcerated, because that tends to be something that happens more to people that are lower in the socio-economic strata of society. So that's interesting to point out, because prisoners are an unsympathetic bunch by and large, aren't they? You know, people have all sorts of prejudice about, you know, everybody in prison is violent and they all deserve to be there and they should be punished, and, you know, all of this kind of thing. And that's why it was so clever for the LGBT lobby to attempt to try and push this policy in prisons in the least sympathetic setting. If they can get away with it there, they can then use it as a wedge issue to drive policy in hospital wards, in women's refuges, and as we have seen, absolutely bloody everywhere. Ultimately, Lord Berkeley offers cautious support for the idea of reviewing this guidance, because the Annex B guidance and the Equality Act, they don't fit together. We have to do something about the fact that these two pieces of legislation and policy don't fit together. So I appreciate Lord Berkeley for putting his support to the idea of a review of this policy framework. So, should you choose to write to Lord Berkeley, I would suggest that it's not a bad idea to inform him about the facts of how commonplace it is to be a man or a woman, and how very, very, very extraordinarily rare it is for there to be any question about that whatsoever. Also, to point out that people with variations of sexual development still are men or women. They're men or women that have a congenital difference. In the same way, you might be born with cerebral palsy. You might be born with a limb missing. You might be born and unable to see or unable to hear. All of these people have what might be termed variations of development, congenital differences, disabilities. That's no different. It's just that these differences, these disabilities, relate to the reproductive organs rather than limbs, skin, sense organs. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Humans come in two patterns, male and female. Sometimes men are born missing a limb. Sometimes women are born without a kidney. Doesn't make them any less men or women. In the same way, if a man is born with some kind of slight difference in the arrangement of his genitals, he's still a man. If a woman is born and for whatever reason she is not fertile, she is still a woman. This isn't hard. Come on. This isn't hard. I do think that at this point, people that insist that they don't understand this stuff, I think are either lying or they're enthralled to the LGBT lobby. So ignorance is only an excuse if you haven't been informed of the actual facts. So if you want to write to Lord Berkeley and inform him of the actual facts, we can then rule out ignorance and decide whether or not we think he's a persuadable. He's currently on my could be persuadable pile, because I do think that he isn't being motivated by a strong desire to ally himself with this LGBT movement. I think that he is listening to bad advice from bad actors that are either in the House of Lords or advising the Lords. And it will be interesting to see what happens next. Thanks for joining me to watch this video. I really do appreciate it. If you liked it, please do leave me a like. If you didn't like it, please leave me a dislike. It would be great for you to subscribe to the channel, and please do consider sharing this video on your social networks or with friends and family. If you would like to support me practically, I would be so grateful, and there's a PayPal link in the description box. Thanks for sitting with me to watch this video and for working out a little bit more about the Lords in the Upper House of Parliament in the UK. We're taking back the political process on Turf Island. We're not going to let people get away with all of this talking in the shadows anymore. So if you write to Lord Berkeley, please let me know, and take care. I'll see you very soon.